And now, from beyond our dimension, this is the JeffMara podcast. Here's Jeff.
My guest is Bryan Duszczak, who had a near-death experience due to a stroke. Bryan, thanks for joining me and welcome.
Not a problem, Jeff. I'm glad I could be here.
We're glad to have you. And let's start on the day that you had the stroke and go from there.
Sure. I had become a pretty big guy back in the early 2000s. Most of my life, I was floating around 160-ish, and I had blown up just due to eating too much and sitting at a desk too long and not exercising. At this point, I was floating around 240-ish, I believe. And I was sitting there eating famous Rosati's pizza, chicken, bacon, onion pizza. And I had gone about 3/4 through it. And right here on the right side underneath my rib cage, I just started having it's just a burning sensation, a pain, kind of strange, something I'd never felt before. First, I thought I was indigestion, I started drinking some Pepto-Bismol, hoping that would go away. And maybe about 15, 20 minutes had gone by, and I noticed there's that hazy, like a ringing in your ears was starting, this weird chalky feeling, and I was kind of getting tunnel vision. I thought I was just having a panic attack or something, but it got progressively worse, and then the shortness of breath started. And that was a red flag for me. I got on WebMD, and I forgot what she told me, but it definitely wasn't telling me that I was having a stroke. So I got a little nervous and, mentioned it to the wife. She's like, drink some water, you'll be fine. And maybe 10 more minutes had gone by, and I'm like, that's it. It's getting way worse. It's really hard to breathe. My breathing is getting very shallow. Just let's go to the hospital. I've got insurance right now. Let's go take care of this. Worst case scenario is it's nothing. We were fighting at the time, so she hesitantly got in the car and took me to the hospital, and I got out of the car and she peeled away. She didn't even know for a few days that I even had a stroke. She just left. Now my ex-wife. Anyways, at this point, again, the tunnel vision was increasing, and I call it walking the longest mile, because although it was only maybe 30, 40 steps to get into that emergency room doors, I felt like I was walking in mud, like it just one of those bad dreams where you just can't quite. I was using everything I had to get into that emergency room, and the doors opened, and first thing you're supposed to do is fill out some paperwork. And I looked to my left, and there's a line, and at this point, it was like looking through a paper towel tube. Like I just could only see what was straight in front of me and maybe 4 or 5 feet. And there's just no way I had time to fill out paperwork. I felt like I was dying, like very bad panicky feeling. The ringing in the ears was getting worse. I could feel my heartbeat and hear my heartbeat. And by the grace of God, I just looked to my right down the hallway, and there was a orderly wearing the greenish blue smocks, and he was pushing a gurney, and he was coming in my direction. And really the last thing I remember as far as being in the physical 3D was I put my hand out to get his attention, and I was trying to say, like, help me. I'm not sure what came out of my mouth. Something garbled came out, but it wasn't help me, although my thought was thinking it. And in that moment, I watched my hand and then the back of my head fall to the floor, and heard this really strange, like, ripping noise. I describe it as kind of like Velcro being pulled apart very, very, very slowly. Just, and that was it. I'm looking at my body. Now, when I was younger, I've experimented with things like astral projection. I've actually achieved that a few times. And when you do that, you're attached from like the center of your body to right around your belly button to your physical body. And that was the first thing I thought, was like, I am not obviously in my body. And I looked for the cord. And that's when the panic ensued, because there was no cord. I was not attached to my body. And it dawned on me like, yep, I'm dead. Although in the 3D, only a few seconds had passed, but so many thoughts go through your mind, or through your soul, because I wasn't connected to my brain anymore. But so many things are happening in my head, is where I could hear, but yet I realized I have no ears. and my brain's trying to like determine like how can I hear it. I'm feeling the vibration of anything I could focus my mind at, to where I could hear the nurses saying things like blah 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 stat, blah blah pick them up, blah blah put them on the gurney. But in your, I guess, mind, although I'm not attached to my brain, I couldn't fathom like how can I hear these things, because I don't have ears. There was a new sensation, a new feeling. And something else I noticed is I've noticed this when Astral before, but at the time, anything I could look at, you've got 360 vision up, down, below, and around. But whatever you would focus on, not only like do you see it, you're bending the light rays. There's no eyes to do that, but you're doing it with your spirit, I guess. But I would look at, I remember looking at the gurney as they were trying to push me away, and I looked at the metal and I could feel the density of the metal. I could feel the coldness of it. And I've explained before, like if you were to lick something that was metal, you could sense what that taste would have even been, like all your senses in one thing, the molecular density of the metal. Another nurse had came by to pick me up, and I looked at her smock she was wearing, and you could feel the material, the molecular structure of it, the density, the porousness of it, like what it was made of. It's a very strange sensation, because you're just all your regular senses are gone. You're experiencing it in different ways: the sight, the smell, the taste, the touch. It's a very odd sensation. But immediately when I realized I was dead, I'm like, oh gosh, oh no, I didn't finish my mission. Now here in the 3D, I have no idea what my mission is exactly. But while I was out of my body, I had this like intense desire to get back in my body, and I have to finish my mission. And it even crossed my mind that God's going to be mad because I didn't finish my mission. There's something that I'm supposed to be doing. And I could only explain it as like kind of like an adrenaline rush. I mean, I was pulsating, I was scared, I was confused, I was panicking, but yet, there's no heart attached to me. So it's not like a heartbeat. It's like whatever your soul energy is was just pulsating as if I was having an adrenaline rush. And I had this, it's really hard to explain. It was almost like a blanket of energy came over me from my right, what would have been my field of vision. There's just a bright glow coming from literally right here, maybe 2 feet away. And I kind of focused my attention in that direction. And son of a gun, have you ever seen the movie Cocoon by chance?
I have. It's probably been 20 or 30 years, but I think maybe you saw some light beings.
Yeah, exactly. It was a lot like those. I would say like kind of humanoid shape, kind of hard to explain, but definitely glowing pure white, goldish hue. But yet there was, if you looked intently at it, you could see the almost like when you look very, very closely at a television screen, there's the RBG in there, those little teeny tiny cubes that create the picture. You could see little pieces of different colors in there, but the majority of it was definitely white light and some gold tint to it. And I just kind of looked at it, and it was, I wouldn't say featureless. They were much like those entities in Cocoon, but it was kind of looking at me like ta-da, like, hey, and I'm looking at it, and it's kind of looking at me, and it was a familiar feeling, yet I've only been here for, 10 seconds. So it's all unfamiliar to me in a way. Although this place feels familiar, I'm looking at this entity and it's looking at me like, hey buddy, how you been? And I'm looking at it like, you could tell that the energy coming off of it, I've compared it before to, I mean, outside of just being love, only earthly like way I could explain it was, is it felt like you're in your grandmother's bosom as she's reading you your favorite bedtime story. You're eating from a plate of warm chocolate chip cookies, you're petting a puppy, and there's like a nice little fireplace going on nearby. Just the coziest, most comforting, most loving, secure feeling I've ever felt, like that I can remember. And I'm just kind of looking at him, and it's looking at me like, hey, how you doing? And just right off the bat, I humbly asked, like, are you, I knew it, but I still had to ask to confirm it. It's like, are you God? And he's like, yeah, always, most of the time, kind of like sarcastically, like, you don't recognize me, yeah, most of the time. And I kind of, but I feel this presence, like, are you also Jesus? And he's like, yeah, sometimes. And it felt like so much more than that. And it was kind of clicking in my head. I'm like, but I feel like I see like this presence, this jovial, this happiness of Buddha in you too. And the second I even thought it, again, I'm not saying this is all kind of telepathically happening right here. And it's being translated to me in English because that's what I speak. But I'm like, I even see like Buddha in you too. And no joke, he gave me that Buddha face. If you've ever seen the jovial little meek smile that he does, and kind of gave me this that feeling of like, yes, like of course. And I started, I'd mentioned to you before that I had gone on the road and got a chance to meet a bunch of different beliefs and backgrounds. And I had mentioned Jah, and that's just another say of link of Rastafarians thing, like Yahweh. But even I said Krishna in my head. I said, like, I see Krishna. Like, there's this ancient feeling of time within you, and I said Krishna in my head, and no kidding, turned blue, popped the crown, and did some sort of breakdancing arm lock. I don't even know what that is, but showed me his Krishna self as well, and it just clicked in me, like, oh, that would explain some things. Like, I've been an omnist for many years, to where I'm kind of open to all beliefs. I see all is one, and it just kind of confirmed it for me. Like, all the different beliefs are just different expressions of God. And right then and there, in this first 10-second interaction, confirmed all that for me. And I was just kind of dumbfounded. I'm like, look, man, I'm real sorry, but I know I didn't complete my mission. Like, what do I got to do to get back in my body? Like, it's not over. Like, I didn't really, some people have like a life review. I remember a quick flash of a couple memories, but I was just stuck on, what do I got to do to get back in my body? And I didn't really ask, like some people, may I get back in my body? You're offered a choice to get back in your body. I wasn't really going with that. I didn't want to be told no. I need to get back in my body. What do I have to do to get back in my body? And when I started asking these questions, I've heard of downloads now that I've been reading about NDEs, but it's definitely very strange when you're experiencing it. I like to refer to Matrix, when Neo learned Kung Fu. Like, as fast as you could think the thought is as fast as I was getting a reply. And the very first message, like, what do I need to do when I get back in my body, was aspirin, water, and citrus peels. Accent on peels. Don't know why I know that. Don't know how it got jammed into my head so fast, but that was literally the first download that I got. And it was surprising to me that I got that message so quickly. I thought there'd be like more to it, but I'm like, well, wait, if I ask questions, can I keep asking these questions? And I was like, okay, so what do I need to do when I get back in my body and I need to maintain my body? And then it was just boom, another download. And I remembered words like moringa seeds, sea moss, cutting out dairy, cutting out sodas, intermittent fasting. And those are like just the first top 5. It was many, many more pieces to that, as far as when I get back in my body. But that opened up another, I guess, wavelength, to where I'm like, oh, okay, so if I can ask these questions, I guess I can ask this whole book of questions that I've accumulated. At the time, I was 43 years old. So I just was like, all right, well, here, I have so many more questions. What's the meaning of life? How do I learn about this? What do I do about that? Da, da, da. And I'm telling you, sir, as fast as I could ask them was as fast as I was getting them. And I could kind of compare it to like a computer's bandwidth. It started when I was asking just a few questions, but now I've just dropped this entire book of chapters of questions into God's lap, to where I noticed that my bandwidth was increasing and increasing very, very quickly as far as how many questions, how many downloads, as far as the messages back and forth, uploads and downloads. It was a very strange feeling. And I've explained this before too, is like if I had been in my human body receiving these, it was so much data. It felt like just terabytes and terabytes of data popping into my brain. If you were in your human body, I think your head would have exploded. It was just too much for a human, like physical brain in the 3D to handle. It was a lot. A few things were happening to where I feel like my conscious and my subconscious were able to separate in such a way to where consciously I'm thinking to myself while I also realize all this data information is going, but consciously I remembered like, wait, there's something more to all this. As I'm having a conversation with God, I guess subconsciously, and getting all this information and asking all these questions, there was a period of flashes where I remember like I was studying, I was looking through books, I was sitting at desks, I was going through a hall. I remember pillars, archways. I remember other like floating energy, kind of like I was. Some of them recognized me there, but looking back, I think I got a chance to look through some Akasha or Akashic place. I don't know what that's called. But at the same time, my actual conscious was like, wait, there's a lot more here. And it was like I remembered something like, oh, you know of another place here. Again, these downloads are happening, but yet I focused on this other place. I would say like your normal zero frequency or baseline energy would be like when you're doing an ohm, like that's the calm. You're not low, you're not high, you're just here. But I knew there was another frequency, and I knew it like the back of my hand. I just went from like to a very, very high note, high frequency. And as I did that, my whole being, whatever you could say, spirit, soul, energy, went to a completely different plateau, like a new level in this spirit world on the other side. And this image actually behind me in the background is pretty close to what I created with AI, to pretty close to what I saw. I would say I was a few miles at least above Earth. I could see Earth down at my left side. It's rotating very slowly. And I could see this like light grid, and everything that was alive to it, again, much like the Matrix. If you've seen the movie, all the buildings and inanimate objects were green code, but everything that was alive was turned gold or had a yellow tint to them. And that's what I'm seeing. I could see everything that was alive, everything from the grass, the trees, some animals, but the things that were the brightest were the humans. And I could see these humans that were on Earth from a distance, and I was captivated by it. Just like, how do I know this? It felt so familiar to me, this aspect. And as I kind of honed in on it, I realized I'm hearing like whispers, voices. I know it sounds a little weird, but I was hearing voices, and I focused very clearly on one of them. At the very first one I heard, it sounded much like I would say an Oriental, maybe Korean accent of what could be like a 9 through 12-year-old girl, but you could sense that she was terrified, she was scared, and I actually had this sense, a smell of almost like still water or swamp water. And she even said, she's like, Mommy, where are you? I was swimming in the pond, and my foot got stuck in the mud. And what happened? Where are you? It's so cold and it's so dark here. And I'm like, what is going on? And then I heard another voice. It was a much older man, maybe in his 70s or 80s, perhaps. But he was saying it was either Margie or Margaret. Like, Margaret, where are you? He had a Scottish accent. Where are you, dear? I remember we were turning the corner, and I saw the truck lights, and you could feel him go, when he just realized that he had recently passed away, and he's like looking for his wife and doesn't realize that he's in the in-between right now. And then another voice was a younger boy, could have been Canadian, probably Midwestern, from America possibly, but around 17ish. And he's just saying, I probably shouldn't have swallowed all those pills, but I just couldn't take the pain and the depression anymore. And life just wasn't worth living. My mom's going to be so upset with me. And this kid had just, committed suicide. And it was just a very weird perception to be able to hear the calls of all these hundreds, thousands of people that were kind of in the in between. But at the same time, there was a familiarity to it, to where I don't know how, but I think I used to help people that were in the in between, in a way. Like, it felt that familiar. Like, I know this place, I know this aspect, I know what I'm doing here. Is that, although it seemed very strange, it felt very familiar as well. Like I had been here before. And I had mentioned, like, when I was talking to God, and earlier in this story, and I asked him, like, are you God? And then I said, are you Buddha? And it, like I said, it made sense to me. He's like, you remembered much quickly this time. And when he said that, it had really hit a point to where I realized, like, oh, Bryan, this body in 3D is only, give or take 80 years I'm going to be, but my soul has been here eons before. My soul is going to be here eons after. And this is just a very, very short blink in the whole timeline of my soul itself. And I felt that familiarity with him, like, oh, you're always here. Like, in between every life, every near-death experience from other lives that I've had, he's the constant. You're God. You're always there. It totally killed my belief as if there is a true God. It made me realize, like, he's ever present. He's all knowing. He's always there waiting for you. And it felt very, I like to say it, like, it felt like it, how do you even say it? Like, it felt part of me. I think I was connected to it in a way. And I think we all are. Now that I'm back in my body, it makes more sense that we are all connected in that way, also through God. And it was strange when I'm in this presence, seeing these poor people in the in between, how confused and how scared they were. And I'm feeling all their energy. It was so almost overwhelming. But I wanted to console them, but I wasn't really able to interact with them. I could hear them, but because I'm not even sure why, but I wasn't able to interact with them, although I had felt in previous forums that I was able to. That's why I know this place. It felt like my office space. It felt so familiar, as if, if your wife had a baby and came back to work after 9 months and sits back at her desk for the first time, and everybody's like, hi, Mary, how you doing? And it felt like that familiar. I know this place. And as I'm kind of trying to deal with what I'm hearing right now, I looked up to my right, and there are these two very large entities, much like the form that God was. I could see that they're actually interacting with these people down below. They're consolers. They're the ones that are trying to explain to them, much like how God was there for me. They're trying to help people, like, for example, the Korean girl, oh, you'll be okay. Let me walk you through. They're the ones that maybe show you your life review, or console you, or help you pick your next mission or next body or whatever you're going to do. And I'm kind of observing them for what felt about 10 seconds. And I'm trying to be real quiet, just absorbing what's going on here. And I felt like, although it felt familiar, I just felt like also maybe I'm not supposed to be here right now, like almost like I was trespassing, like in an abandoned mall, and somebody just caught me here. I didn't mean to necessarily come here, but I'm here. And this one entity had more of a, like a male masculine feel to it. We made eye contact, but he saw me as I'm looking at him, and just kind of had this, and I'm like, hi, am I supposed to be here right now? Is this okay to be in this area? And he just looked at me like, hi, look, it's, and he said a name that felt so familiar to me. It wasn't Bryan, but it felt like it was the name of me as the entity of my soul. He recognized me as if I had just walked into work and everybody said, hey, Bryan, it felt like that. And he kind of looked down and he's nudging the other entity, which looking back, I could tell was more of a female feel to it, although they're kind of ambiguous. There's no real organs or anything like that, chest or anything to notice what they were, but that one felt a little more female. And she looks down at me and I'm looking at both of them and just like, hey, what are you doing here right now? Like, you shouldn't be here in this spot right now, but and kind of gave me this like, wait a minute, you knew this was going to happen. I'm like, huh? Yeah, you knew this was going to happen. In fact, you gave me something to give you just in case you came up here and this were to happen. I'm like, I did? Like, okay. So like in the back of my brain, even though I'm still getting downloads with God in my subconscious, this is where my attention is focused. But I'm like, wait, I've been here before. And it was kind of clicking like, yeah, that's why this feels familiar. Okay, but it just wasn't quite making sense. She's like, I'll be right back. I'm going to go grab what you gave me to give you in case this happened. And kind of just dissipated into thin air as if going off to a janitor's closet at the office, I guess. And the male entity, you could tell, like all these other beings that were in the in-between, like they're falling behind. They're supposed to be consoling and helping these people, but they seemed very short-handed. There was only, a couple entities out here helping these people. And he's just like, well, hey, while she walked away, like, hey, how's it going down there? And immediately I was trying to give him like a mission report. I'm like, man, they're poisoning the water down there. They're poisoning the food down there. Like, we're all struggling with this economy, trying to, struggle to make things work and feed our families. There's a lot of bad people down there. People are suffering. There's slavery, all these different things, trying to give him a mission report. And he's like, calm down. We know. I'm like, you need to send more people down here to come and help us. We need to turn this all around. And he's like, well, yeah, we have been. There's plenty of like spiritual warriors down there. That's part of your thing, is you need to help awaken these people and get them going so you can, like fix this. And I'm like, what? How come I don't remember this? Like, he's trying to explain to me that your job is to also help wake up other people, to help basically raise the vibration of the planet, which I'm not sure how to do that still to this day. And is that it's trying to, like, it's sinking in. I'm still downloading with God. This female-ish entity comes back and has this glowing ball, I'd say about yay big, if you can see both my hands, about yay big. And I would compare it to what is in the inside of an old school lava lamp. Just this mass, kind of reddish, orangish. There's specks of like almost glittery in there, and a little bit of black in there, and it's just pulsating and vibing and just full of this energy. Even lightning was inside it, almost like a plasma ball, kind of, if you remember those. And she's carrying it, and she's like, all right, well, this is what you gave me to give to you. And I don't know, they were maybe what seemed like 200-ish feet away in space, and she kind of just threw it at me to give it to me. But yet that second that it took to get to me, I was in full panic, because how am I going to catch this? I have no arms. I'm just a body, or not a body. I'm in my soul. And it gets closer and I panic, and and it came to me. And in that very moment, I opened my eyes in 3D, and the orderly that had picked me up off the floor, approximately 9 Earth minutes ago, was rubbing his knuckles on my sternum. And that's enough to wake you up. Looking back, that was really crazy timing. Time is much different on the other side, because the whole series felt for maybe 20 minutes to a half an hour, as far as the reality, where my conscious was. The learning part seemed like that was about 2 weeks. And then, come to find out later, it was less than 10 minutes. But immediately I just wake up. He's like, "Hey, buddy, you just had a stroke. Can you say your name?" And I said my name, Bryan Duszczak. He's like, "Good, good. You can speak. You're not slurring." He says, "Do you know where you are?" And to say it, in G terms, I better be in a flipping hospital because I feel like crap. And he started laughing. He's like, "Yeah, yeah. I mean, good news, bad news, man. You just had an ischemic stroke, I think it was first. Then we gave you the juice, and that turned into a hemorrhagic stroke when we broke up the clot. The bad news is the clot broke up into three pieces. One's going to your brain, one's going to your lungs, and the third clot's going to your heart." He says, "This is the knockout juice. You're going to be out for about 8 to 12 hours," as he's putting the syringe into my IV line in one of those breakers. I don't know what it's called. But yeah, you're about to have open heart surgery. We're going to be cracking your ribs open here in the next 10 minutes or less. And I'm just like, like I didn't want that. But suddenly, like, it's hard to explain. I wasn't controlling what my mouth next said, and I wasn't controlling what my hand next did. But my hand went immediately on top of his hand very gently. And I said, "No, we're not having any surgery today. Take me to a private room. I know exactly what I need to do." And in that moment, his hand starts shaking and his voice got trembly. His pupils got like 4 times bigger easily. And all the hair on his arms both stood up on both of his arms at the same time. And it was just really strange because he kind of gave me a strange look, but his thumb came up off the syringe. He pulled it out of my line before giving me any of that juice. And he says, "I don't know why, but I believe you. I'll take you to a private room." And he's like, "What do you need?" I'm like, "I need aspirin, I need water, and I need citrus. Stat. Bring me all the citrus you can give me." He's just like, "Oh, okay. Let me take you to the room." Took me to a room. As he was leaving, another nurse came in. And then I like to say Hillary Clinton's little sister came in and made me sign some paperwork, the responsibility release that I'm denying surgery, period. They were very apprehensive on that, which I understand why. They don't want me to die in their hospital. So as I'm signing that, a doctor came in and he's got, the gloves on. He had just been sanitized or whatever. And he's like, "I'm Dr. Such and Such. I'm the one in the OR we're prepping the room for you right now, sir. You're about that clot's about to go back to your heart. You're going to have a heart attack. We need to do this. We should have cut you open minutes ago." And like, nah, I'm just, I don't know why, but I know what I need to do. Here comes the orderly with a cart. He had 2 pitchers of water, 4 aspirins, 2 in 2 packs. And there was just oranges, limes, lemons, and I remember a grapefruit or two. And I'm like, "That's what I need right now." I started crushing the aspirin with the pitcher of water and literally swiped it off the desk. I swear they thought I was going to snort it. But I just kind of wiped it off my hand and dumped some in each container of water and started peeling the started peeling the citrus fruits. And I was just compelled. I don't know why, but it was one of the strongest cravings I remember ever having. But I was craving the peels, not the fruit body, the actual peels. Don't know why, but it was part of one of the downloads. Well, the first download that I got while I was out of my body. So I'm munching these peels. I'm literally just tearing them all apart, getting as many big pieces as I can, throwing them in my mouth, mashing it up. As I'm mashing it up, I'm chugging the water to wash it down. And that's all I did for like the next like 3-4 minutes or so. And the doctor's like, "What are you doing? We need to go have surgery, sir. You're about to have," and I'm 80% sure he said widowmaker. I'm not sure what that type of heart attack is called, but that clot is definitely coming back to my heart. I think I made it through half the lime, half the lemon, a couple pieces of grapefruit peels, and I just started working on the orange, which tasted the best out of all of them because citrus peels are pretty hideous. And aspirin water is not good either. But there was a booming voice in my head, much like when I first heard the voice of God. It was telepathic for sure, but it said, cough hard, cough now, and don't stop coughing. Literally a booming male voice. And, I just heard that voice from God, so I'm not going to question it. If God's telling me to cough, I'm going to start coughing. So immediately just, and all of them started panicking, like, whoa, whoa, whoa. And I remember the heartbeat sounded a little irregular, because, I've got all these sensors on me now. And I just kept coughing. I had some more peel in my mouth. I kind of downed that, chugged some more water, kept coughing. And just in maybe the fourth cough, I felt this pop, and then a squish. I would compare it felt like almost like a jellyfish popped into my heart, because like the hard part, the front, the big part of it, and then this weird gelatinous trail maybe behind it. And I remember my heart was going steady a moment ago, but now it's definitely horribly irregular. And I remember what I remember is it like just for a couple of seconds. And I'm still here trying to cough. I had peels in my mouth. I'm trying to swallow that, trying to drink some water because my mouth's getting dry. I think I made it to 6, 7, 8, 10 coughs maybe. And then I felt another squish and then a pop, as if the jellyfish had turned around and gone backwards, or breach, or whatever you want to call it. But I felt and that was it. I just passed that clot through my heart. And my heart starts beating normally. I remember that they were charging up the paddles for a second there. They were going to give me the just in case. But the doctor's still standing there like this, like, how did you know how to do that? And I'm just like, I can't explain it, but I just had a little talk with God while I was away, and he told me that's what I needed to do. That's simple. I asked him, what do I got to do when I get back in my body? And I did what he told me to do. He's just like, sir, you just passed that clot right through your heart. We're going to watch you, see if it comes back or gets, progressively worse or whatnot. But yeah, you just passed that clot. That's not normal at all. Like, we should have been in there digging around, pulling the clot, giving you stents or whatever the case was. The original orderly was just standing there looking at me dumbfounded, like, oh, well, that's the first time I've seen anything like that, And still to this day, I can't fully explain it. I don't fully understand what my mission is. I don't know how to raise the vibration of the planet, but I'm going to keep trying. But yeah, I stayed in there for 3 more days. The only residual effect I had was like a blind spot in my left eye. I think I've always had short-term memory issues, but that definitely exceeded for a little while, and then just a little numbness in my left side, and my thumb's been kind of wonky ever since. I can't bend it all the time. Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. But outside of that, I don't think I'm slurring or anything. I think I speak clearly. All my body parts move. I can run, jump, dance. But I'm pretty sure God saved my butt from dying and having open heart surgery.
Bryan, thanks for sharing your experience. It was amazing. You said that you've done some astral traveling before this NDE.
Yes, 7th grade, I took out a book about it. And
How is that different from the NDE? Like, what did you see during your astral traveling compared to the experience?
the one instance that I remember was the very first time, because it was the most surprising. I remember being in my own bedroom as a teenager, and I was laying face down, so I kind of floated up. Again, could see the back of my head laying in bed. I had a collection of like wine and liquor bottles on a shelf above and next to my bed. And as I was kind of floating there, I remembered seeing a little bit of a spectrum, a prism coming from the light outside of my window that it was next to, from the corner of it was a Jack Daniel's bottle. And I had never noticed that before in 3D, like in my body, but I noticed at a certain angle in a certain place, you could see that spectrum. So that was kind of something that I wanted to remember, to validate that this is something that's actually happening, not just my imagination. In that same instance, I remember kind of looking around at my Motley Crue and my Rat posters and Poison posters at the time. And I'm like, all right, I need something else to validate this. Let me try going through that wall. And this wall was in between mine and my sister's room. So I gave it a kind of a 1, a 2, and a 3, and I hit it. And it was such a strange feeling that I had to back away. I couldn't make it through the wall. But I again remember the same sensation as I had when I saw the gurney handles, is that you could feel the molecular density of the drywall itself, the pores, what it's made from, and you could feel that. And it was just a very intense, strange feeling. I'm like, well, that didn't hurt. It was just an awkward feeling. Let me try it again. And I did a whole 1, 2, and I pushed through. And even though it only took a second, I felt the drywall, the pink insulation, the wood, the pink insulation, and then the drywall on the other side. And here I am in my sister's room, and she's a year older than me at the time. I was just kind of like, okay, this is awkward. I could see her room as I fully remember it. Uh, she had this nasty thing called a gummy pal, I think it was called, where she would take chewed gum and put it on this plate, and it would build this little tower of chewed gum. I thought it was repulsive, but I hadn't really looked at it that much before. But I remembered, okay, I'm going to use this as an identifier. White, green, blue, green, red, white was like the colors of the gum at a certain angle in a certain layer that she had there. Again, gross, but it was just a color pattern that I wanted to remember. After doing that for maybe 3 to 5 minutes, I could literally look down and see that there's a cord going through the wall, going back through to where my body's laying in my bed. And I started getting this weird, clammy, kind of like a panicky feeling that, I got to get back in my body. It just felt like, okay, time's up kind of thing. And just within, I'd say 1 or 2 seconds, just you follow that tube back, boom, I'm in my body. I'd lay there for a second and have this very static electricity feeling around you. I didn't move a single muscle at first because I kind of like that buzzy, weird, staticky hum. But then eventually you move one finger and that buzzy feeling's like all gone. You're just yourself again. And I remember getting up. I stood right up on my bed and I looked for that angle in that Jack Daniels bottle, and son of a gun, there it is. I can see that prism, that spectrum angling back outside. So that was validation number 1. I went downstairs, had some breakfast, bowl of cereal, and my sister came down, and she's wearing a like really long Care Bear t-shirt nightgown thing. Boom, validation number 2, because I remembered seeing that when I came in the room. So she starts pouring herself a bowl of cereal. I went back upstairs and I just glanced in her room. White, green, blue, red, green, white. Boom, validation of this nasty gum tray that she had. So I had 3 validations knowing, okay, this is legit. I've been out of body. The difference was when I was passed away at my OBE, there was 0 cord, nothing. All the same aspects, as far as sensing the molecular density of things was there, but I just no longer attached. That's the terrifying part. That was my confirmation that I was dead.
I think the only other thing is with your astral traveling, you just kind of stayed in the region of your body, whereas your
Sure.
NDE, you went to another realm completely.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. I would agree with that. Yeah. Because when I did that frequency thing, yes, I was in a completely different zone. You're right. I was only within my house, at least that time. There's 2, 3, or 4 that I can still remember vaguely where it's occurred, where I have been outside, but I haven't gone like outside of like my yard or my neighborhood. But when that OBE happened, yeah, I was definitely on a completely different plane, plateau, frequency, dimension. Not sure what to call it, to be honest.
Do you think that you pre-planned your NDE?
I'm trying to figure it out myself, my friend. But when those 2 entities said my soul name when that place felt so familiar, as if I had been here in the in between, working with these people, being one of these caregivers for people. Um, and them saying, like, you knew this was going to happen. You gave me something to give you when this happened. All I can say is, yeah, I guess in the 3D in this body, I don't think we're supposed to remember some things, or we're not allowed to remember some things. How some people remember past lives, I don't. But in that form, when wherever my conscious was going through Akashic, like, I was familiar with all that. Like, I knew I had been in this realm before, many, many, many times over eons. But as a 3D individual, as Bryan now, I don't remember that. Like, I don't know how I planned that, but I now, looking back and looking into other NDEs and looking up other spiritual stuff, I think we do plan our lives. I picked this body. I picked all the traumas and dramas and things that's happened to me over time.
Do you think it's possible that from working that job on the other side, you heard so many experiences from people that newly crossed over about how bad it is here that you just decided, I'm going to try to go down there and fix some things?
That's actually a conclusion that I've kind of came to after reviewing this and trying to piece it all together. I feel that I was one of those entities that does help these people in between, and that, yeah, I think I mentioned during the story that they seemed very short-handed as far as helping the people that are in between. There was only a couple entities there, and I thought that at one point somehow I've been one of them, but yet I feel like I volunteered here, and they're telling me my mission is to find more warriors, spiritual warriors, that are here to also help raise the vibration. I'm here to help wake people up. In 3D, I don't understand how I need to do that. I'm trying to learn how to do that. I'm making some moves on how to do that, but I don't fully understand that mission. And if anybody ever sees this, please contact me if you know how to figure that out, because I feel like I've fallen behind, much like when I first passed. Like, I didn't complete my mission. I don't want to die and not complete my mission. I know I have a mission, but I'm trying to figure out how to do that. You know.
Well, maybe being here and sharing your experience today is part of fulfilling that mission. And perhaps
I,
other podcasters will reach out to you so you can share this story multiple times and reach not only tens of thousands of people, but potentially hundreds of thousands of people.
I really hope so. I know that I've learned a couple more things about myself since this has happened. I was doing like Lyft and Uber for a while.
You are a
Since
driver?
2020.
Is that what you're
Yeah,
saying? Okay.
yeah. And there'd be situations and times and inklings and just situations that are unexplainable, totally synchronistic. For example, one guy got in my car. If you still got time for a quick 3-minute story.
Yeah, sure.
But he was a younger kid, I'd say 17-ish, and he got in the car, and I was just like, "Hey, bud, how's it going?" Just leaned over. He's like, I'm fine. And just right away, that didn't feel right. I'm just like, man, I know when I feel fine, I don't sound like that. He's like, yeah, I don't want to talk about it. And I could feel his vibe. I could feel his anguish. I could feel his sadness. I'm like, all right, if you don't want to talk about it, that's fine. But unfortunately for you, you just won a round of car karaoke. And I normally don't do that, maybe 3 or 4 times throughout driving for a couple years. And he's like, no, 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 no. I'm like, well, too late. And I picked a song. Coincidentally, it was Welcome to the Jungle, which was a, good old album back in my day. And I started singing it like a retard. I just, welcome to the, just started singing it. And before you knew it, I looked in that rearview mirror and the kid's back there going, dun, 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 dun. And he's jamming, and he did the whole like tail end of the song and actually sung it pretty darn well. I was impressed. So the song's over and I turned the volume back down. I'm like, all right, bud. So what is it you're not telling me, man? Like, what's going on back there? He's like, man, I don't have anybody to talk to. My dad's not around. I don't have an older brother, man. But One of my friends that I've known since I was a kid, I just found out he's been talking to the girl I've been trying to talk to for the last couple of months. And apparently they've got something going on. So he's like, screw them. I don't talk to them anymore. And I'm done. I'm starting my life over. I don't know what to do and this, that. And, I've been betrayed. And I'm like, well, congratulations. And he's like, what the heck? What do you mean, congratulations? I have this thing where I can see the optimistic side of things. I'm like, you don't realize what you just did? He's like, what? He's like, bro, you just found a good, I mean, like, were you with her? Did you, were you together, so to speak? He's like, no, we just been talking for the last couple months. So you just basically screened the perfect girl for one of your best friends that you've known since you were a kid. Like, congratulations, man. You just basically found him a good girlfriend. Like, she wasn't your girlfriend, right? He's like, no. So I'm like, why are you upset? I'm like, you just found a good woman for your best friend. That's actually an honorable, awesome thing. And he's like, oh, I didn't think about it like that. I'm like, man, don't worry about these princesses, man. Go build your own castle. You're a good singer, man. Take some voice lessons, pick up a guitar, do some push-ups and sit-ups to get strong. Trust me, man, build your own castle. Then the queens will come. And he sat there quiet for a second. He's like, yeah, I didn't think of it that way. He's like, you're right, man. Wow. He's like, wow, I have a whole bunch of thoughts coming in my head. He's like, why am I even worried about this? Like, you're right. I've been just being selfish. And we pulled up to his destination and he opens the door, starts getting out of the car. He's like, hey, man, can I add you on Facebook? He's like, I really like talking to you, man. You're a really cool guy. I'm like, yeah, here. I typed in my name on his phone and, added it in there. And he starts walking away and he goes to this code box to open up a gate to get to the building. So I hadn't ended the ride yet. And I looked up and the sign is the San Antonio Teen Suicide Center. And I just got verklempt. Like, there's this big, like a frog in my throat. Like, oh my gosh. Like, I'm normally a pretty nice guy, but I went overboard on trying to get this kid to lighten up and, talk to me and get it out. I don't know why that came over me. But just as I'm ready to end the ride, he goes, hey, you didn't end the ride yet, did you? I'm like, no, not yet. I was about to. He's like, can I change my destination? Like, sure, buddy. Where do you want to go? He said, he starts climbing back in the car. He's like, here, let me change the destination. And it was the downtown Commerce Street Mall right there by, I can't think of the name of the mall right there.
The River Center Mall?
Yes, thank you. I just remember there's the Gaucho meat places like right there at that entrance. That Yard House.
Right.
Yard House is right there. And okay, like I was familiar then. And like, yeah, sure, let's go. I'm like, why are you going to the mall, buddy? He's like, dude, I don't want to kill myself anymore. He's like, I learned more from you in this last 15 minutes than I learned at the last 9 sessions with the therapist. He's like, you know what? I'm going to go in that mall and I'm going to get a job. He's like, I'm not going to get a job. I'm going to get 2 jobs. I'm like, okay, cool. He's like, I'm going to fill out every application they hand me. I'm going to get 2 jobs. He's like, I'm going to get those voice lessons. I've been thinking about getting voice lessons for a while now. He's like, I have a guitar at home, but I need to buy a better one. So that's where my first check's going to go. And I'm going to do this. And you're right. I should start doing push-ups. I could be buff, this, that, and the other. He's like, I can see my whole life before me now. He's like, I don't even know why I was depressed about all this stuff. And I'm over here just going, I got goosebumps right now just talking about it from the effect that I had on this kid. Just, I know things that I shouldn't know. I say things that I wouldn't normally say. And as long as it's, about love and trying to help people and serve fellow man, I know that I'm on some sort of path, that these abilities are growing inside me daily. I have all these crazy interactions. People come up to me, like, sir, can you help me with this? Of course I'm going to help them. I don't turn people around now, but if you would have asked me prior to this, I'd be like, no, I don't have time, bugger off. You know what I mean? But now something inside me's changed. I even became a minister in March. May.
That's great.
I went on the Universal Life Church. Is more of a omnist point of view. They're open to all beliefs and discussions, not just one single frame of mind. So I went and got my certifications to that, and trying to get moving forward and just to helping people have conversations. I want to do a podcast where I can talk to people of all other beliefs, and try to bring people together, in the wake of what's going on with our boy Charlie, who was a great communicator as well. I wanted to be able to bring not only Christian people together, but show all beliefs that, of at least what I learned, that God is the thing that we're all praying to, at least most of us, outside of, Satanists and Luciferians. But it doesn't matter what name you give it, what culture you came from, or what you call it. Those are all just messengers of the bigger picture. But yeah, that was just one of many examples where just little inklings and saying things that I normally wouldn't say, the effort to help other people with their issues, the knowing, not sure where that's coming from, but I feel like I'm becoming some sort of vessel to where, again, the words are coming out of my mouth, but I'm not necessarily thinking of what to say. I just kind of let it flow. And, 9 out of 10 times, there seems to be good, powerful, good changes in the person I'm talking to's life. I'm affecting them in some way. I have this undying desire that I'm not doing enough. I want to do this at a much grander scale. So I'm trying to work on some things as far as maybe Google Meet or Zoom Meets where I can have many people in the room at the same time and talk amongst ourselves. And these other NDEers, I'd like to get a hold of more of them, see if they're having similar situation.
Well, since you're on Facebook, you should start your own Facebook group, and then you guys can all meet together. It's like a great place to start. Or do you already have a group?
I have a very small one that was just regarding my NDE. I typed the whole thing out in length. It's 19 paragraphs.
Mm-hmm.
That's called Doozies Quest, DOOZIES Quest, which I've been using. It's a private group, so you have to kind of like apply, answer a couple questions, then I approve it to avoid spam bots, But I think that's a start. I'm trying to get money together to start a website so that I can do things like that and get these people together. I would love to keep the ball rolling. I don't want to fail my mission, even though I'm not quite clear what it is. But I know that's part of it, bringing people together, finding other spiritual warriors that also feel like they have a mission, and raising the vibration of the planet. Although I'm not positive on how to do that, I know that it'll kind of come to me in time as I learn and meet more people that'll maybe even help me on my mission.
How can people contact you besides that group?
Facebook is what I mainly use. So finding me on Facebook, Bryan, and then I'm sure you could put my full spelling of my last name up there because it's a rough one.
Sure. Are you okay with people emailing you? Or do you prefer just for them to write you on Messenger?
I say that's the best way to start. I've put my email out there publicly before and then just got added to a ton of email lists, and my email is already inundated as it is.
Okay.
But that'd be a good place to start, was under Doozies Quest, because that's kind of oriented, to what it's all about. I realize not everybody watching this will have Facebook, but that's definitely a place to start for me right now.
All right.
But eventually, I did start a website I'm working on called omnistries.com, which is Omnist Ministry, although it's not so much really about ministry itself. It's just about people coming together in spirit, trying to make things work and make this world more peaceful. And, even though we have differences, there's no reason we can't just talk things out.
When you were on the other side and you saw pillars and you were potentially at the Akashic Records, did that area look like ancient Greece or ancient Rome to you?
I'd say kind of in a way. I remember it being way more colorful. If I think of Greece, I think of everything's white. I don't know why, white or like beige or tan, but in there, the colors are so much more vivid. And to be honest, the other side feels more real than being in 3D. It's hard to explain that. It's almost as if 3D is the dream and that is reality. It's hard to explain that. But yes, yeah, I remember lots of colors, just teals and purples and the golds. lots of greens. They're just, it's a lot more vivid there, I guess you could say, as opposed to, again, I think of greens as very sterile and white, but it was very similar architecture, I would say, but much bigger. You think of an archway in Greece might be 15, 20 feet high. Some of these were in excess of 100 feet easy. Like, very tall there. And I also remembered not everybody is just walking around. There are entities there. I don't want to say aliens, but they're definitely not of human form. Not all of them anyway.
Well,
But I think it's,
what forms did you see besides energy beings?
I would say live bodies that were just showing what form they wanted to show at the time is the best way to explain that, because some did look humanoid, some were just orbs, some were, I remember, almost alien looking or humanoid at least, but vaguely, yeah, just things you can't really explain it. Like, we've never seen them with our human eyes here on Earth before. To try to explain an entity that's a completely different form other than humanoid, really hard to, explain. Orbs with rings around them, organic yet not, things of that nature. It's kind of hard to explain, but I guess it was just whatever form they're showing themselves as at the time. I think, like, light bodies on that side have the ability to show, like when somebody passes, some people see their grandmother, right? But I don't think that grandmother on that side is always in that grandmother form, but they're showing themselves to that individual as that form at that time. Does that make sense?
It makes sense to me because I would think that sometimes a being would show an appearance to somebody newly crossing that would be comfortable for them.
And I think that's also kind of like what God entity was doing. Some people see relatives, some people see actual Christ, but, in doing some history, we're used to seeing the brown-haired, light-eyed white guy with the beard and long brown hair. If you really look at history and things of that nature, there's a huge potentiality that that's not what Jesus looked like at all. But because that's what's in our heads, that's what he's going to show you. Me, I guess, being an omnist, seeing a light body that looked like they were from, the movie that I talked about, it kind of makes sense why he would show me that. It's kind of like a neutral thing. But when I thought of different entities, when I said Buddha, he showed me Buddha. When I said Krishna, he showed me Krishna, So I think that there they have the capability to translate what you need to see for your best comfort at that time. Other people that maybe had a bad history or negative life experience, some see hellish figures, some see demons. If Catholicism and Christianity has been bombarded in their head, they have guilt, shame, and they've done bad things. Well, that's probably why they're going to see that. You know what I mean? There's plenty of people that saw Buddha that were of the Buddhist faith. So it makes sense. They show you what you need to see at that time.
You refer to yourself as an omnist.
Yes.
What does that mean?
Luckily, my stepmom raised me in such a way to where, although I've been baptized twice as a youngster, um, I went to Bible studies as a kid, and although I believe in Jesus and I believe in God, I don't necessarily believe in a lot of the negative messages that are portrayed in the Bible. And then I had mentioned that I had gone on the road and traveled and met Sufi monks, Buddhist monks, Hare Krishnas, all the above. And I think that, I've came to the terms with, I think all of that, if God is all seeing, all knowing, omnipresent, he created those things. So if people want to say, oh, well, Buddha is another deity, that's evil. No, he wasn't a deity. He was just another messenger, much like Jesus was, that was very enlightened being. So a lot of the teachings of Buddha, if you look into it, really coincide with a lot of what Jesus was trying to say. Same with all the messages. There's a lot of good messages in all the beliefs that I believe, being open-minded to all the above, because if God is all-knowing, all-seeing, and omnipresent, those are all messages through God to me. So being open to those, outside of, Satanism and Luciferianism, I like to apply the finer points of all the beliefs. There, you know, every single belief out there has some form, just in another context, of pretty much do unto others as you would do unto yourself. Treat others the way you want to be treated. Uh, if you look at the law of one, they try to show you that we are all one. We are all of one great consciousness. We are all fractals of God, experiencing as God individually. That makes sense to me now that I've been on the other side and I've been next to God and I've seen what He's shown me. And that's kind of what an omnist is, realizing that, it's all under God. It's all one. So I don't think anybody's got it quite right. I don't think anybody's fully got the answer. I don't think one religion is fully the one belief, but I do see that all of them have pieces of what, of what it is. It's just, you got to be kind of open-minded to that. I don't think, just the Hare Krishnas are the way to go. I don't think just Catholicism is just the way to go. I don't think that just Buddha is the only way to go. So an omnis is one that doesn't prescribe to just one belief, but is at least open-minded enough to find truth in them all.
Before we finish up, can you
Yes, sir.
leave us with a last positive message?
Well, like I said, before this happened, I won't say I was the greatest guy. I was a good guy, but something that I've learned more and more is purification, is a word, or surrendering to. Purification. I had to clean out my system. I had to do that in order to not only be healthier, but to open up my channels, to open up my mind and my body, to be healthier, to eliminate the brain fog. But the purification allowed me to start receiving more, allowed me to be closer to the other side, so to speak, that allowed my soul to be able to open and focus and receive what I've been receiving from God, or the other side, so to speak. So I think just cleansing and purifying your body, mind, and soul is hugely important. A lot of people are ingesting all these horrible chemicals. They're thinking impure thoughts. They're doing impure deeds. They're mean and rude and serving themselves as opposed to serving others, which I found the combination of all the above has really changed my life for the better. And I keep on embodying, that jovialness that I saw when he showed me his Buddha self, the wisdom of his Krishna self, the love that he gave me as Jesus. I want to emanate that now. And I don't think, that many people are on that path. If you're riddled with toxic chemicals, you're never going to get past that barrier. You're just going to stay unhealthy in general. And once you start getting healthier, I know there's so many people out there that I've met like, yeah, I've been thinking about going to the gym. I've been thinking about, eating healthier, going vegan. And those people are like right there at a cusp where they're trying. It's just, you got to go full throttle. You got to sacrifice some things. I let go of sodas. I let go of dairy. I let go of cigarettes, although I do vape once in a while. But, sacrificing things that aren't good for you is hugely important to show God that you're willing to purify, you're willing to cleanse, you're willing to do better, you're willing to give some of yourself. And I don't mean sacrifice in a in a bad way, but you're willing to get rid of some of the things that are blocking you. You're trying to show God that, hey, I'm willing to release some of these things from my life for you, to make progress as a soul, as a spirit in my life. So if you've been thinking about doing some things and cutting some things out of your life and, purifying more, go for it. Go for it. Go for it. Because there was nothing scarier than me panicking, knowing that I didn't finish my mission. And I think all of us do have some sort of goal, some sort of mission that we've chosen to do in our bodies at this point in time in the 3D. And I recommend finding out what that is. And the quickest way to do that is to purify.
Bryan, thank you for your message, and thank you for being my guest.
No problem. Nice meeting you guys.
Thanks for watching the JeffMara podcast. I really appreciate you. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. And if you do, there are loyalty badges and other perks depending on your level of membership. All you need to do is click the join button underneath the video to find out more. Thank you for your support.